Hi, welcome to wilsonliling.com. Our ministry website is designed to be a blessing, especially to those who desire to grow more in the areas of leadership, intercession, and the prophetic. But we have many other things in there to help equip the believers so that they may grow in the ability to serve more effectively in the kingdom of God. Well, today I want to talk about a very important topic. I want to talk about upside down leadership. In other words, about serving in our leading. Most people, they gain ideas or at least impressions about how a leader should lead. Perhaps they caught this by observing other leaders, or perhaps because they've been impacted by other leaders around them. Maybe they learn it from their parents, from their workplace. Some learn from school, or maybe even some learn leadership from TV or books and so forth. But the question we have to ask ourselves is this: whose standard should we follow? What really should be the inspiration to us? I believe one of the keys is we do have to return to the Bible. We have to look at how God, Jesus, how his godly people led and learn from them. Now, Jesus, of course, is the ultimate example of godly leadership. Yet, when you observe the way Jesus led, you might find that he often throws out what is conventional worldly leadership. He throws it out of the window. So let me bring you to Mark chapter 10, and we're going to look at verse 42 to 45. Jesus called them together and said, this is his disciples, "You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." So Jesus taught this because along the way to Jerusalem, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, they wanted position, they wanted authority. So they asked Jesus to be able to sit at his right hand and his left hand. So, these guys, they were actually being a bit sneaky. They cut out Peter, who at that point was essentially the right-hand man of Jesus. They did not give the other disciples any consideration at all. No wonder the other disciples were so upset with them. And that is why Jesus had to correct their attitude. The disciples were amongst themselves arguing about who would become the greatest. However, Jesus reframed what it meant to rule. Authority is to be used to serve. Ruling is to serve those they oversee. Greatness is about serving, not being served. Greatness is measured by not how many serve you, but how many people you serve and how well we serve. So Jesus turned everything they understood about leadership upside down. Wow. And you would have thought that after Jesus taught them this lesson, that it would be clear to them. That is the way that Jesus viewed greatness. However, just a few days later, they were at it again, arguing about who would be the greatest at the Last Supper. This is Jesus' response. We see this in Luke chapter 22, from verse 24 to 27. A dispute also arose among them as to which of them was considered to be greatest. Jesus said to them, "The king of the Gentiles lorded over them, and those who exercise authority over them call themselves benefactors. But you are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, the one who rules like the one who serves. For who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who is at the table? But I am among you as one who serves." So Jesus turned leadership upside down. What it reveals is about the disciples is that while they heard, they were yet to build it into their hearts. And I think there's a lesson in there for us personally. Now, let's examine some qualities of effective servant leaders and seek to build it into our lives. The first one I want to talk about is that servant leaders serve beyond their personal agenda. Now, we all have agendas, including personal agendas. And can I say this? Having an agenda is not a good thing or a bad thing, but more is about whether the agenda is noble or ignoble, whether it is godly or ungodly agendas. And I hope we will have more noble and godly agendas. And one thing we got to be careful about is because we could at times become overly focused on our personal agenda and neglect God's agenda. True serving means making selfless, even sacrificial decisions that goes beyond our personal agenda, how it would dictate the decisions we make. Sometimes it even means putting parts of our agenda on the shelf. It means putting aside our personal preferences for the sake of others at times. Perhaps even it means sacrificing our own personal agendas because we see that the needs of others, the desires of others are important enough. I'm certain, for example, that Jesus would have preferred not to die in such a painful, gruesome way on the cross, but he put it aside for the sake of the multitudes. Jesus is King, and he served by dying for all. You know, in one of our regions, there was a leadership crisis at the national level. And to help with the situation, one of our global elders, Pastor Simon Eng, and myself, we stepped in to act as interim elders in that nation. Now, it's not part of our personal agenda to do so. In fact, it takes a lot of our time to get involved in those matters, when in fact we could have focused more on other global matters that impacts our family of churches. But because we saw the need to help our churches and our people there, so we step into that role for a season of time. I actually did something similar quite some years ago with another Australian church. There was a conflict between two senior leaders, and I had to go in and stand between them and avoid a bigger fallout within the church. So I became its senior pastor while I was still a senior pastor back here in Brisbane. So I had to fly regularly to Melbourne and to help lead the church. And in those days, we didn't have the kind of communication, the digital communications, such as the Skype, the WhatsApp. We didn't have all those, so we had to rely a lot on emails and phone calls. And I had to do this for 5 years. It was at a cost to my family and to the church here in Brisbane. But I did it because it was for the sake of the kingdom of God. So in various different areas of our personal lives, we also chose not to pursue our personal agenda. Why? So that we may free up our time and energy to focus more on the agendas of the kingdom of God. We had to make that sort of a choice. Now, can I say that serving does not mean we just deny all our personal agenda? It does not mean, for example, letting go of our leadership responsibilities and giving in to other people's agenda. It's not about that. It doesn't mean that we're pulled aside to agendas of others all the time. I'm not talking about that. Wisdom is needed to find the right balance. But ultimately, the highest agenda is God's agenda, which we should honor first. Now, the second thing about servant leaders is that they serve out of love. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 13 to 14, it says, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself." So, true serving is best motivated by love. where our perspective is that we give, not take. We seek to bless and empower. Our heart should be to bless, to help others mature and rise up. A leader's role is to help those we lead to succeed. Think about that. We exist to serve them, not use them. So my attitude is always that I love to see the members in our church be more blessed in receiving than in giving out. I want to know that as a result of them being a part of our church, they benefited more than we benefited from them. Especially, and this can come to pass especially if we provide godly leadership that offers a great vision in terms of moving on with God and great opportunities to serve together, which will benefit both them and the kingdom of God. So we serve because we genuinely care for them. When leaders have that heart to serve out of love, we will not manipulate, we will not take advantage of the people, we don't lord it over others. Instead, we empathize, we identify with them, we sit down with them, we listen to them, we hold their hands at times and even cry with them. We put our arms around their burdened shoulders and speak life into their hearts. One of our life group leaders, a couple, they very lovingly serve their life group members. They would take the time to visit or call up their members faithfully. They will often hold special dinners in their home and cook up a wonderful meal and invite people into their home. There was one person who had been coming to our church for many years but refused to be part of a life group. So they persistently connected with this person for years, inviting him to participate in any life group activities because they did not wish for him to remain disconnected from fellowship. So they were trying to engage him in different ways. After more than 5 years of trying, this person finally started to come to their life group. Wow, they do all of this simply because they care. They want the best for people. The third aspect I want to share about servant leadership is that they serve with humility. In Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 to 4, it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others." So when leaders lack humility, they tend to value themselves above others. They will place their own perspectives, their own judgments above others. They will struggle to genuinely serve others because deep inside they believe that they should be served. When they serve others, they have the expectation that they should be compensated adequately, since to them it is tough serving others. So they need to get something back in return. Humble leaders will deeply value and appreciate the people around them whom they serve. They are grateful for the team that they serve with. It is a joy for them to serve people. Pastor Dennis Liu is one of our global elders and one person whom I deeply appreciate. Even though he leads a large church and his ministry has a significant impact in the community, in the city where he is in, yet he serves with such a genuine, deep humility that it actually touches people's heart. Nothing is too small for him to serve others in, whether it be peeling the garlic, whether it be taking out the garbage, or being on the stage and affirming others. It comes from a humble heart to serve. And that is incredible. The fourth quality I want to talk about a servant leader is that they serve from a place of security. Now, it is so important that a leader does not serve out of insecurity, but rather to have security. You see, some serve because there's a need, an inherent need in their heart to please, to conform, to oblige, and that is not actually a healthy place to serve from. Because if we're not careful, it can really lead to a compromising of personal personhood, of personal value, of what we should be focusing on. Instead, true leaders, they serve out of meekness, out of their strength. We serve because we can, because we want to, because we value it, not because we are pressured into it, not because we are cornered into it. You see, when we serve from strength, we have much greater clarity in choosing who we serve, how we serve, and when we serve. Have you ever noticed Jesus was never pressured in his serving? He did not serve people what they just want. The masses, for example, wanted to pressure him to become a king. He walked away. There have been other churches and other movements that have asked me to serve with them, but I did not, even though it would have brought additional, better benefits to myself, because that is not what God has called me to. When we serve from a place of security, we are not pressured. We're not obligated in any of those things. Let me go on. A servant leader, fifthly, serves out of discerning the needs. Did you notice Jesus discerned the needs, the true needs of the people, and he served that? He discerned, for example, when the masses needed teaching. He discerned when they needed healing. He discerned when they needed food. He discerned when it was time to move on even. Jesus served because he discerned what was important, what was needed. True servant leaders, they tend to be aware of people's needs around them because they are observant of people that they serve. It is from this discernment that they're able to make the decisions, the choices, the priorities on what to serve, how to serve, who to serve. And so they're often, in fact, able to take the initiative even to serve without being requested because they see things. When my wife and I, we founded this church in Brisbane some 30 years ago. And over all these years, we found it really, really important to discern the evolving needs of our congregation. Because as the congregation grows, as it ages, and the trends and the culture is changing and all that, we have to adapt. And so we found that when we are discerning, we're able to prioritize in a better way. We're able to adapt how we lead, how we meet the needs, both spiritual and natural amongst our people. And because as we do that, we are able to build a healthier and a thriving church together with our leadership team. So great leaders are able to work out the best way that they can serve for the greater good of many because they are discerning. The sixth and the last point I want to share with us is about servant leadership that serves with God's mission. When you look at Jesus, he did not just serve. He served with a clear mission. And it's crucial for us to realize that serving does not, in itself, doesn't make one a leader. A true leader serves, but with mission. Godly leaders do not only want to serve, but they want to further God's mission. So serving with a clear mission also helps us determine why we serve, how we serve, who we serve. So mission clarity is crucial. Mission clarity provides us answers to why we serve. And it's crucial because it helps us determine priorities. For we cannot possibly serve any cause that comes along our way. For example, in community work, the needs are always endless. We can serve until we're bled dry, and still the needs will not be met. In our church, we do have a community arm. And I require that the community work we do should not duplicate what is already available, what is already adequately provided by others nearby. And the sort of criteria we use is this: how does this bless the community in a sustainable way and also build a bridge to the church? Then with that, we're able to work out what community projects we can be involved in based on our available resources and strategic goals. In other words, how we serve. Clarity of mission helps us. And since we do not have many highly skilled social workers in our midst, we focus instead on low-skill, high-touch projects. For example, we have a food pantry project that provides food for the needy families weekly in our surrounding community. And we seek to use that also not only to bless them, but to build relationship with them. We've also recently partnered with a Christian organization to start a financial mentoring project to help those families who are struggling financially to better learn how to manage their home budgets, because we want something more sustainable for them, not so that they just receive things, but teach them how to work out, how to manage themselves better. Because our hope is we can help them break the poverty cycle. And so we offered this to the needy families that use our food pantry. We also hope that they can build a bridge to the church. So a clear mission helps us to determine why we serve, how we serve, and who we serve, because we want to be effective in our serving. Let me conclude. Jesus is the greatest servant leader. We should seek to follow his example and the heart that's behind it all. Hence, in following Jesus, we should really also grow in the heart of a servant leader, not just following what he did, not just following his example alone. And when we further examine how Jesus served, we discover the principles for effective servant leadership. And so if we truly want to be those effective servant leaders, we should serve beyond our personal agenda, out of love and humility. We should also serve our place of security, out of discerning the real needs and with a clarity of God's mission. If we would have such qualities, it would really lift the effectiveness of our serving as leaders who truly want to be faithful and honoring to God. God bless you.